dig deeper for those of you who have a really strong interest and passion around not just ID, but understanding the nuances of ID, firstly about yourself, but then broader ID so you can use them, more proficiently in your day-to-day interactions. So thank you for joining and welcome. We always start these webinars with a check-in on you personally and how you're doing with being in stride. So on that basis, and those of you who are new, Palak, I know this is your first time, but we talk about a model we call the peak performance indicator. And if you think about that being like a road that you travel down, and that road is a straight line that takes you on that road, you're in stride. That's when you're being true to your ID, performing at your very best. You're in stride and everything seems to come both easily, in terms of decisions and success, and you're very energized by it all. It's also a place where you're in great health. And the shadow that you cast from a leader's perspective is the very best you can ever offer. But there are times when you get pulled off track from that main instinctive road, the way that comes naturally for you. And whenever you deviate and go out of stride, it's always at a price. It's at a price of success and effectiveness and fulfillment and even your health. And that's the situations where people will say things like, this just isn't me working like this. I don't even like the way I'm showing up. So we talk about whether you're in stride and on that main road or whether you're being pulled off track and out of stride. And on a scale of 0 to 10, meaning 10 being you're on that main road and a 1 out of 10 being that you're way off track and out of stride and feeling like you're almost trying to work your way through mud in a day as opposed to everything being greased and working more easily. Where are you today? And some of you can relate more easily to a number. Some of you would say, well, I'm on that road or I'm off that road, but I would just ask you to put in the chat, given this is a small group and you can share it with each other. What is your number today? Is it a high number? Is it a low number? And you can see like Alex has put there, you're a 3. Joe is a 10. Great. It's great to see 9s from Brenda. Wow, that's really good, Brenda. Leonie, 9. They're nice scores. 10 from Judy, very consistent. So these are not the scores you'll find in the general world. Amanda, 9, that's awesome score for you too. The benefit of having seen you guys on these calls every week is I've seen where some of the scores have been, and now you see they're sitting up very high. This is just shows great self-awareness and great self-governance. It's one thing to be aware of your strengths and what drives and motivates you, another to be able to stay true to that through the challenges that life provides. So you can see there's some very high scores. When we do this across the world, just so you guys know, the average score is 6.3. And when we go into a team for the first time and we just ask everyone to put their scores up, and I'll say, 99% of the time people are really honest, that those scores of an average of 6.3 play out. And we've found an absolute correlation between the performance of the team when it's sort of, rolling along at a 6.3 average. And when you can get those scores up to the high 7s and into the 8s, which is where as leaders you want to play, 8s, 9s or 10s, the change in the team performance is palpable. And it gets to a point where not only is it obvious in the results of the team, but the brand of the team, other people outside start noticing the dynamics of that team and start asking what they're doing to get to that sort of place. And to me, that's the energy and the shadow. It's one thing to cast a shadow as a leader. It's another to cast that shadow as a team. So these scores, although they're somewhat arbitrary, but you're just putting them out there today, I find them to be a very real indicator at both a personal level, a team level, and then more broadly culturally. So let's check in. Alex, that's a big change for you from previous weeks. You want to share what's going on for you? You don't have to. I just want to give you the opportunity if you'd like to, or maybe even get some insight from the group.
Okay, cool. I wish I could put my finger on it. I think part of it maybe the week before last, I had watched some of the training videos and that like just set me on fire. I was like, yes, I'm heard, I'm seen. I what I do, the way I do it, it makes sense and it matters and it's okay, it's acceptable. And then the last week, I really believe it's probably because I kind of move on from one thing to the next. So I tend to get complacent with processes. So all of I've been networking a lot the last month, and well, yeah, about a month. I've been doing a lot of networking with new business owners and, exchanging referrals and contacts. And I guess I'm just kind of bored with the routine. I was sharing with Judy, like it's like, I know how to have a one-to-one and schedule a sales call from it and connect them with people who are going to help grow their business too. And I'm happy to do it, but I'm just kind of bored with it. So that's where I'm at. It's like, I'm just bored, which then makes me feel like maybe I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And, that's hard.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of us on this call that can relate to, getting bored pretty quickly with anything that feels routine.
Uh-huh. Oh,
So,
good. So you're saying I'm not alone.
not in this group. No, but it's true. And, I just to extrapolate this, I mean, there's a lot of people, if you think about being a mum, many women are mums with, from a different ID perspective. And there's a lot of mums out there who get into the routine of raising a baby and very quickly feel very guilty because they're like, I can't run from this role. I mean, that kid needs me for a long time yet. And after 6 months, I'm so bored with changing nappies or diapers, and doing a 4-hour feed and, the cleaning in between. Everything's so routine. And when they don't understand their ID, but they've watched their mum do a great job, their sister do a great job, they're feeling pressure from their mother-in-law, they don't see it as, well, I'm just bored with the routine because I'm an avoid complete or I'm an improviser or whatever. They just feel that what's wrong with me, that I'm getting bored with something that's routine. Aren't routines good? Everyone says the baby needs a routine, So I just think the first step, and this is the power of self-awareness, is to just understand there's nothing wrong with you. You are always forevermore going to get bored with the routine, because when you look at life through your ID 3737, you thrive on a challenge. And the more things are unpredictable as opposed to routine, the thing with routine means it's predictable. And people who are your ID, it's the death knell for them, predictability, So that's the first thing I'd reassure you. And secondly, if you look at the IDs in this group and just even some of the people, you're in very safe company. Like we all face similar challenges each and every day where we're doing things that are just routine, and yet we want to do them. So a quick thing might be cleaning your teeth or having a shower. There are even some of us that get bored with that, but you got to do it. But because it's quick, you can do it. And it's normally you look on the positives. But that's going to be one way you could say is maybe I'm in the wrong role. But I think a more healthy approach is, how can I still do the same role, but change it up in my mind so that it's more in line with my ID and more challenging, more of an adventure, more exciting. And then I'm good, because you can't, yes, you could go and change your role now, but if you had children or you're in a relationship, you don't just change them every 5 minutes when you feel like you're being bored. You've got to have a different perspective. And the most successful people in life aren't the ones who find the niche for their knack, like the magical fit with their talents. They're the people who have learned to navigate all that life offers, but to reframe it in a way that matches their ID.
Thank you.
Hey, Alex, can I ask you a question? When you say you're bored, in those moments what do you do right then? Right when you go, oh, I'm bored. What's the next thing you do with that information that you've just created?
Oh, that's a good question.
Good. Don't answer it now. Just play with that.
Okay, I'll play with it.
Well, I'm saying I want you to do that. I want you to go, well, what do I do? Don't do something, but just go, what do I do with this? And there's a secret in there, because your boredom means you're just not doing something you want to do, but you don't know what that is right now.
Okay.
And so go, oh, what's this boredom? Boredom's giving you something. It's giving you a hidden gift. Your homework this week is find out what the gift is.
Got it. I'll report back next week.
Okay.
A big gift.
So Greg, for the benefit of everyone else other than Alex, what's the gift for you when that happens to you? Because you're a 2 incomplete and a 6 improvised, so that must happen to you a lot. What is it? What is it you've learned when you do that for you? Just share with the group so everyone else can benefit from that.
I just don't feed it. Like boards just goes change. Boards just I'm missing something to do. There's something that needs to be done, or for my 8 just goes, okay, what's a better use of me? This is not a good use of me. It's almost like your car's sputtering. You got to go, oh, I better go check the petrol. It's boredom itself is a friend that goes, dude, change. That's for me, right? Other people, it may not be boredom, it might be an anxiety or a fear, but even that is just a signal to get our attention. It's our unconscious going, hey, dude, wake up. And so I just don't feed it, but I say in a fashion, thanks. And then I go, what's next? It's actually not much more complicated. I'm saying that's a 20 years overnight lesson, okay? So it's not like it's taken me a while to learn that.
So Greg, just to make that real, if you use the example of the mum who's doing something routine, you know, 3, 4, 5 months into a new child, and they're in a place where they feel that they're bored, and now they go, okay, if that's you, and you say, I'm bored, what would you do then differently to be more in stride? Give an example of that.
Right. The one secret is get your attention off you and get your attention out onto the world. So your attention's on you going, oh, I'm bored. Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, this. You got to get it onto the kid and going, what's she going on about? Or what is this person? You reach out to someone. You've just got to get your attention off yourself, get your attention on the world immediately around you. And there's something there saying, here, come here, come here. But when our attention's on ourselves, that's usually when we're the most miserable.
It's a great principle. I mean, you shared that with me years ago, and I've found that to be very true. You know, attention out as opposed to in on yourself. It's so easy to be in that woe is me sort of mode. The minute you switch it around, it's a totally different perspective. Alex, can I just check in with you? The fact that you've even verbalized what's going on for you, has that changed things for you in terms of how you feel right now?
Yeah, I'm a verbal processor for sure. Some people say you don't need to tell everyone your business. I'm like, well, I don't know how else to process everything.
Yeah. So one of the things it's good for you to know, I know that you're still learning all about your ID, but when you are an authenticator like you, when you verbalize, you're taking it from being like stuck inside you, that's just noise and energy that churns and is more in a negative place. Getting it out by verbalizing it is like therapeutic, you know? So whenever you're festering on something silently, maybe just know I need to talk to someone and just get it off my chest. Even though we haven't solved anything today per se, just getting it outside of you, it's like it lowers the internal temperature, you know, and gets you to a better place where you could maybe even then deal with it. To Greg's point about doing something, you know, just that is helpful as well. And I say that to all of you who have that authenticate drive. You know, you'll never be overstressed by working too hard. You thrive on hard work. You thrive on sweating. You thrive on the struggle. But what does cause enormous stress for the authenticators is when you've got something bottled up inside you and you haven't sort of released the valve. For the minute you share it, it's like the pressure valve opens and it just comes spewing out, and then you can relax again inside, and maybe that lets you be in a better place to deal with it.
With a score of mine of 1 in complete and 9 in improvise, I get quite a few of those pressures. How I manage it is I understand that our instinctive drive sits in our subconscious. And when we have thoughts and feelings, they tend to be at a conscious level. And of course, what I do then is if I'm bored or I'm struggling with the routine of something, I then try and challenge my conscious thinking about it. How could I do this in half the time? How could I beat someone else at it? And straight away, my improviser takes over. And I've now got the energy that I need to finish something that is boring and repetitive and has to be done.
That's great input. Thanks, Jim. Thank you. Now, so Alex, are you okay if we just move on? Is there anything else you wanted to get from the group on your score? I'm just conscious of what you shared so far.
I think she just dialed back in, Paul, so you might
okay.
have to repeat that, yeah.
Okay. Alex, I was just saying, you okay if we move on, or is there anything else you want to share?
Yeah, thank you for the time.
Okay. So the other thing I'd point out to you is there's some very high scores that people shared here today, 8s, 9s, and 10s. I would venture to say that I've never seen the scores so high in this group, or frankly, probably any other group. you don't, there's a lot of people that would struggle to even say that they're a 10, you know, that they feel like that's saying perfection. But this is not what that means. It just means that you're on fire. You know, when you are genuinely on fire, you can't not be a 10. You know, like it's one of those things that you're just almost screaming out to people. So these are great scores. And, you know, it means that in terms of how you're showing up and getting through your day, you're not only being successful in yourself, but the shadow that you're casting and influencing across to others is really one that's, you know, energizing and inspiring and motivating to them. So that's a great place to work from. And I'd say to all of you who may not be feeling at least an 8 now, you know, don't just sit there at a 6 or a 7. There are strategies that you can learn and apply so that you can virtually immediately shift, because it's not about changing the circumstance. It's about how you approach the circumstance from a different place and a different mindset that allows you to do it in a much, you know, more in stride way. Does anyone want to speak to their highest score and maybe what they've done to get there? Because you know, Brenda, I look at you, I mean, that's probably the best score, a 9. I don't know, I've heard you put up a 9 before. So is there something that you've done or that's going on for you that's particularly got you in that good place right now?
I am investing in me, learning new things, challenging myself. And I am in a place, I have great team members now. I'm not the only one front and center. And it is so motivating to come to work and everybody's excited about their jobs. Everybody's excited about being part of the team. Everybody is, you know, drinking the Kool-Aid and everybody is, yay, let's get it done. So it's taken a while to get the right team associates on board, but now that we have the best team, it's great when you have people like-minded that want to take it to the next level, whatever that looks like, right?
It's really interesting to hear you express it through your ID, you know, so your ID is a real team player. You know, when you think about the complete drive that's all into harmony, it's not about achieving goals. It's about everybody. And you just use the word everybody about 6 or 7 times. It's about how everybody works together to achieve that goal, you know? And so for you, and it was fun for me to hear you express it, and everybody this and everybody that and everybody, because when the whole jigsaw puzzle is actually synchronized and integrated and working in harmony, that's what really, you know, brings out the best in you. So I'd say it, you know, that's a moment in time that's wonderful. It's not always like that, as you've experienced before, but just you can feel the difference of when you have got all those pieces working like that. But if they're not, the thing to keep in mind is, instead of saying, well, they're not working, you actually get a lot of fulfillment out of taking a mess and making it good. So long as you can see a pathway to getting a team that's maybe a bit dysfunctional, and you're on a journey to getting it to the place you're in right now, like that nirvana state, that is still really rewarding to you. You know, a lot of times we're actually attracted to the opposite of our ID so that we can be our ID. So that, for example, even though you're into harmony, you're not actually attracted to teams that are harmonious. You can actually be, because then there's almost nothing to do for you, you know. But if you arrive at a team that's dysfunctional and you've got to clean up that mess and get it to a place of harmony, the journey of mess to harmony is really fulfilling for someone who's a completer, you know. Same with, say, a verifier is attracted to problems because it's the solutioning of the problem that is the fulfillment for them. If everything was already solved, there's nothing for a verifier to do. For an authenticator, if everything was functioning and nothing was broken and there's nothing to fix or nothing to do, I mean, that's not a pleasant world either, you know. If everything was possible for the improvisers, that's not going to excite them. But if they take on challenges that are seemingly impossible, that's what excites them. So we're often drawn to the opposite. And you can often say to yourself, why is it me that's always got to clean up the mess? Why is it me that's always fixing what's broken? Because that's what you frigging love doing. But it's like telling yourself that message instead of complaining about it, reveling in it, changes it completely, you know. but it's so, because the difference is not only are you enjoying being a 9 right now, but you're probably having such an incredible influence on the team, keeping them all together because of the way you're showing up. It's like they go together, you know?
Agreed.
Don't lose, I got you, Judy. Don't lose heart if it changes. Just see that you can be even more in stride, as it were, helping them all get back there. Yeah. It's great to see.
Thank you.
Judy.
I'd like to pour a little gasoline on the completing.
Okay, anyone else got something I want to say then? Judy.
You know, it's been a number of months when you interviewed someone, I don't remember exactly which person it was, but it was mentioned that he had and I believe she was on the call. Yes, she was a completer. And she was his assistant. And
yes, for Anderson. Yes, yeah. Yes, from Infoblox. Yep.
And so you mentioned every team needs a completer.
Yep.
And that was a pivotal moment for me.
Oh.
Because I'm on the homeowners board here. There's 6 of us on the board. And I had noticed before that I was making most of the motions at the meetings and you know, starting stuff and completing stuff and all that. But then I said, oh, I'm the completer. That's my job. And I, you know, like heard these other 5 people around, so they do what we need to do. And that was so incredibly helpful. And then today I had an experience. Well, since then, I have learned, as you've mentioned, to appreciate my ID more than ever. And today I had an experience where I had a number of people that I needed to get them to do certain things. And with this attitude now, this is my job. Okay, I'll get him to do that, her to do that, you know, and not in any kind of directive way. But this was with a service club, Kiwanis. I don't know if you're familiar with Kiwanis.
Yep.
Okay, those are very loving people that don't necessarily have any technical skills. And so I'm coaching a young man who's becoming a professional speaker, and he was their speaker, and he was there in person because they're doing hybrid meetings. And I was here on Zoom with a number of other people, and I wanted to be able to record his presentation on my computer. And so I did research first, talked to several people about what's the steps necessary to do that. And then I coordinated with about 5 different people there to make that all happen. And it happened beautifully. And so now I just have a deeper appreciation for the talent that I bring, rather than thinking, oh, geez, these people don't know anything, you know, all that kind of stuff. And
good on you. And
really,
it's a great example, Judy, of how by you changing your mindset, you're doing the same job because you're coming in from a different angle now, in line with your ID. You feel that you're doing the same job, but from a place of being in stride and more fulfilled. It's very cool, isn't it, to be able to operate?
It's way cool.
Good on you. Good on you. So I just want to ask too, we've got a couple of other people. Amanda, I think this is the highest score you've ever had too. Is that right? Tell us about what's going on for you that made you put down a 9 and what's missing for that actually to be a 10. I'm curious to just get your perspective, given this is a masterclass and we're here about nuance.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I wasn't in stride for some time. I just had some complications. Personally, I couldn't exercise, so my routine just completely changed. And recently, last Saturday, actually, my husband was away in Queensland, and I finally got some time that I kept postponing to just sit down and put everything into a paper and just working. I had so many things happening personally and in business, and just writing everything down and making a plan and making a to-do list. Sounds so silly, and I should have done that. I should have done that way before it got to where it did. But it was 2 hours on my own, just writing everything, and then I finished that, and I'm like, okay, I know where I'm going. I've got a plan. I know what I've got to do, and that was it. So simple. And then since Saturday, I feel like I'm living life with purpose. Like I come in every day and I know what I've got to do. I know where I'm heading. I know where the business is going. I know what my projects are. Yeah, so simple, but so powerful. So.
Well, it is, but I would also venture to say that strategy of making your list, organizing a plan, getting everything, written down, you've known that before. That wasn't a new strategy. You've known to do that, but you weren't doing it. So, because a lot of us know what we should be doing, but we don't do it. What was behind that for you, and what made you eventually go, I am going to do that? Because am I right? You knew of that strategy. You knew that would work for you, right?
Yeah, I knew I had to do it. I knew I had to just sit down and do it. But I think I was caught up in the moment and just busy at work and in solving everyone else's problems as well, and just focusing on what else was going on and kind of leaving my needs behind.
What was the trigger to get you to finally then take that action that worked for you?
I think that on the Friday night, I wasn't feeling well. I watched probably 3 hours worth of TV series, which I don't usually do. And I went to bed at 8:30 p.m. with a headache. And I'm like, I woke up Saturday, I'm like, this is not me. Like, this is just not right. I'm just, I'm not doing my meditation. I'm not exercising. I'm not doing the things that are good for me. Like, where am I? So yeah, that was my rock bottom.
Oh, cool. So you've been on these calls almost the entire year that we've been doing them, and you're a great example of the fact that you know all of this doesn't mean we're immune to getting pulled off track. You got pulled off track Friday night, but now instead of taking medication or going to a doctor to get it or tolerating it and putting up with it and hoping that life might get better and so on, you knew enough about yourself to take action, and very specifically, making your list and getting organized. But it's just zany, isn't it? What a difference that makes. Like, really, before you even got to check anything off the list, just having that list and feeling more organized and more purposeful for your ID is what really made the difference,
Yeah, I think knowing that, and I know we can't always be in control of everything, but putting everything down, writing and looking at that list made me feel like, yes, I am in control. I can get these things done, and everything is in harmony and everything is okay. But yeah, it just, I just got off track, and it wasn't good, but it's been good now since Saturday.
What's missing for you to be at 10?
Good question. I don't know that I'm ever gonna give myself a 10, but I could probably get to a 9.5. But yeah, maybe some more things at work, maybe ticking off some more things on my list, but I'm on my way, so not sure exactly.
I'd suggest you have a different perspective about it. Because a 10 is not really a score that you give to yourself. The people who are putting down here today that they're a 10, they're not, how can you express this? It's not like a decision they're making. It's almost jumping out of their bones, the score. It's a 10 is just a way of articulating, I'm on fire, and if the highest score you've got, or the way is a 10, I'm a 10, it's not 10 that I've arrived, or that it's a level of perfection or anything like that. It's like saying if someone, when you have this in relationship, you say to somebody, so do you love the person? And they go, well, define love, and they want to get sort of clinical about it. And you say, well, do you love your children? They go, oh, absolutely love my children. You go, we didn't need much definition then, you know,
Yeah.
or when they're really madly in love with someone, they're doing the Tom Cruise jump off the couch thing. You know, they're just like so excited. And if you said to them, whoa, just contain yourself. I don't want to contain myself. It's like bursting out of their skin, you know, whether it's love or energy or excitement for life. So that's why when they say they're on fire, if you sort of picture that, it's like you can't control that. That's an answer that's bursting out of you. That's a 10. So that's absolutely possible. And I would just, you know, you've got such a gift to give. I've watched you through all of these webinars. And when you think about the influence that you could have in your family and then in your workplace and your friends, if you just, the one number from a 9 to a 10, think of it from going from like excellence to bursting, the difference that would make for the shadow that you cast would be incredibly interesting for you to just think about when have I been like that before? There will have been times in your life where you've been so excited, and not because you've been to a concert that was amazing or just I'm talking about in life, you know, mainstream life, but you're bursting with energy. What was that, and how would you reconstruct that? Because that 1% is like, or you know, that going from one number from 9 to 10 is like an athlete going from silver to gold. No one remembers the silver medalist at an Olympics, but everyone remembers the gold, and it might have been a 1/10 of a second difference, you know. The key has been able to do all of that consistently. So I'd really encourage you to think not so much about the numbers or any person like this, but to get on fire. What do I need to do that? You know, and it might be several things that you need, but it's a wonderful thing to figure out for yourself. You're so close now to being there. I wouldn't, you know, and given your ID is a real mastery type of ID, you know, that next dimension of being on fire would be a great thing for you to explore.
Thank you. That will be my homework then.
I'm sorry?
That will be my homework for next week.
Yeah. So look forward to seeing you as a 10 next week then.
Right. Thanks, Paul.
Does anyone else have anything they want to share before we maybe move on to some other discussion points today? Share about where they're at and maybe what they'd like to get from the group. Catherine.
Thank you, Paul. I've been sitting here realizing that I have no idea what to do next. And I feel very flat, and it's not been making any sense to me as to why I feel that flat, because everything is just happening around me. So the book that I created has come out, and I'm being beautifully validated and acknowledged, and people are wanting to buy it, and people wanted me to do launches, and it's all going whoa, 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 whoa. And I'm going, I don't know what to do next. And it's like all my dreams, I always wanted to live by the beach and write books, and I've got it, and I've been going, oh, I don't know why I don't have any excitement. I don't know why I don't want to do anything. I think I'll just go for a walk on the beach. And I'm suddenly getting, oh my God, I don't want to do all that stuff. That's an organizer stuff. That's a completer stuff to make all that happen. All the invitations and the who's coming and and I need another challenge now, because the creative challenge has worked, and I'm quite blown away with what people are saying, and I'm going, wow, I wouldn't have thought that was possible, but I think that's what's going on. Would you agree with that, Paul?
Well, I'm just absorbing what you're saying, and I'm thinking, I mean, it's interesting that what we wish for and the challenge of, like I was saying before, taking things that are impossible, or I don't know if I can do it, the challenge of that excites you. Once it all becomes possible, it loses that shine. But maybe instead of turning to, well, what's next as my next challenge, because that means you're going to be forever burdened by the need for more challenge. And I know that it's not really a burden. It's exciting for an improviser, but the burden is sort of often trying to find the challenge. But if I think about some of the improvisers that I know that seem to have come to peace with that part of themselves, and they're not, always trying to figure out the challenge. I think it's because they look beyond the thing to the people, to the influence they're having, because you can never stop influencing. And improvisers thrive. I mean, it's one thing to thrive on a challenge, but I'd say maybe at the same level or even more, you thrive on inspiring and energizing and being a catalyst for a mindset change in people,
Yes.
And you can do that a person in a shop or that you walk past, on the beach. You don't have to have had a role or a project or a challenge to do that. So it's more about, I suppose, being rather than doing, and just sort of focusing on, so Greg's point before about attention out, if you thought, okay, I've got to do these, what seem like menial tasks, but instead of me focusing on the task, I'll focus on the influence I'm having around the task with everyone else, and that way you become who you are, which is this, battery pack of energy and inspiration and, excitement for, other people. And I've seen lots of people with your ID, Catherine, not actually do anything. To me, they didn't look like they did anything, but they changed the whole energy in the room, by the way they showed up. And it doesn't mean they were funny or they were loud. I've seen people it's just something about your aura, your presence, if you're in stride. So maybe a focus there as a, like, who am I being for the influence I can have, rather than what's my project I'm doing. It's like looking beyond, whether that will help you.
Yeah.
That was occurring to me as you were talking.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And Greg, thank you for looking outside.
And by the way, congratulations on what you have achieved. I mean, that's important to acknowledge that too. I mean, what a problem. It's like you're sitting there saying, I've got too much tax to pay, what a great problem to have, that you've got all of these things. It's like, wow, this is really lovely. And now I'm looking for the next challenge. But I'd say, firstly, enjoy what you've got. I mean, that's really kudos to you that you've been able to achieve that. But then from that place, the inspirational influence that you can have on others is really maybe, the best thing you could be, as opposed to be right now,
Yeah.
Can I offer something to Catherine, Paul, please? It's Gail.
Go.
Yeah, Catherine, you won't remember this, and I didn't know your idea at the time, but many, many years ago, I went to a session you ran at the National Speakers Association, as it was then, and you were busy explaining how to craft a speech. And I was sitting there because you were telling us how to do it as everyone but an improviser would. And because that was the standard, what would I say? That was the standard way we did it at the time. So anyway, it's cold in Canberra, by the way, and I'm in front of a heater, which is why my hair's blowing every which way. And I sat there through this session and I thought, I can't ever do that. Well, never mind, I'll just do it my way. But I took from it all the other points, because the way you did it was so inspiring, even though what you were telling me to do isn't what I do, if that makes any sense at all. And I was saying before, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but I've been invited to speak at on a tax office webcast today, and they asked me for my script. And I said, oh, I don't work with a script. I work much better without one. So they said, well, what are you going to talk about? So I gave them a few ideas. So they've even crafted someone to ask a question so that my ideas can come out. So, and I still do that, even though if I'd listened to your wisdom, I've been trying to do something else, but I heard your wisdom, but didn't listen to this is how you have to do it. So if that's any help to you, and that would have been, I don't know how many years ago, but at least 20, probably more. So
yeah, about 25, I'd say.
So Gail, you're saying you got more from Catherine's energy and the inspiration as opposed to the actual content.
Yes. It wasn't about, you know, and you rehearse it 15 times. Come on, I never rehearse anything. I
No,
talk off the
same.
cuff and that's it, end of story. And if I try and rehearse it the next time I do it, I do often go along with a page of notes and talk around them, but I can't actually read them. I can't actually say them. And as I say, so it was you, it was your presence, it was your personality. And I only wish I'd known your idea at that time. I knew mine, but I didn't know that you knew yours.
Yeah, I
Thank you,
think
Gail.
it's a great message, Gail. Thanks for sharing it. And Catherine, I think it just speaks to what I was saying. There's what you do, and there's just having the confidence that just who you are is what makes the difference, as opposed to what you do, and especially with your ID. You know, it's the energy around what you're doing that makes the difference, not the doing itself. You know, like you could even think that your book is making a difference, but it's maybe not the book. It's the inspiration people are getting from the book or from you as you're launching and selling the book, and the stories you tell around the book is just an instrument of the process, really. You know, even though we'd all like to think that our books are, you know, are valuable in terms of the content, you know, there's every chance it's your energy around it that's making the big difference.
Thank you. I need to sit with that, Paul. It's very meaningful to me. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Now, has anyone got a particular thing on their mind, a challenge that they'd like to share with the group and get some input from the group on how they might deal with it, whether it's a professional or a personal issue around their ID, something you want to understand more about your ID or how you can apply it. So that's one of the benefits of this class, is to, you know, use the wisdom of the group and the collective ID wisdom to get perspectives from people that are either similar to you or even maybe different to you, that can help you just pick up on the nuances that allow you to perform even more effectively.
I'm just wondering, Paul, if some of what you told Catherine could also apply to Alex, about that it's who she is that inspires, that just that general theme.
Well, so yes, there's a subtle difference. So I'd say, firstly, to people who are improvisers, there is something about your energy, you know, and the stronger you are, like, and we've got people like Jim and Gail and Catherine who are 9s in improvise, like that's off the Richter, you know. So in terms of being intensely driven, we often think it's about the challenge, but I think it's about by showing up on fire and excited. And that doesn't mean you've got to be noisy and, you know, and fully animated. It just means being centered and in a place that you feel fully energized yourself, even if it doesn't looking at, you know, anything external. Because some people might be quite the introvert and I know 9s and improvise that are quite introverted, but it's then how you influence and impact. And it's not by what you do, it's just by who you are and how you show up. So I'd say, particularly for anyone who's got an improvised drive, and to the extent that Alex has got that 7 improvise, that's true. But given the 7 in authenticate, there is a strong need for doing when you are an authenticator. And that's a subtle difference between Alex and Catherine. So for Catherine, it's literally just being, you know, whereas I'd say there's a need to be more doing in the case of Alex. So in the doing, also be energizing and inspiring. Whereas Alex might think, well, all I did, you know, say come along and help me with something, go, Paul, I didn't do anything. All I did was X, you know, like I just helped you find something. It's like, well, it wasn't that you helped me find it, but it was just watching how you did that. You were so positive, and, you know, even the fact you smiled or you asked me a question, there's something about how you went about it that was uplifting to me, you know. Even for a lot of improvisers, when they share their struggles, just the way you share it, like you took the risk to be vulnerable and to do it authentically, and you could have tears rolling down your face and people are saying to you, you're so inspiring. And you're like, inspiring? I'm a mess right now. It's like, yeah, I know, but it's so real. It's inspiring to me, you know, and someone else could do it and they've got the same tears, but it doesn't inspire them. There's something about the way an improviser does it that really lifts people up. All right, who's got something they're sitting on? That
Well, Paul, it's Steve here. How are you this morning?
great, great. Congratulations on your next grandchild.
You've heard, yes.
I've seen,
Um,
yeah.
Well, that's part of the just sharing. I shared circumstances that are 4 and I'm mentally as an 8. Let me explain a little bit. About 4 weeks ago, my 90-year-old mother-in-law had a stroke on a Tuesday afternoon, which is quite sad. Even sadder, she passed away on the Sunday morning, 5 days later, which was Easter Sunday, which was the same day that my little grandson entered the world. So immediately got extreme emotions, happiness,
yeah,
at sort of 1 o'clock in the morning, and 10 o'clock in the morning, the sheer sadness of someone very, very close to. Just to top that off, 2 days later, I then entered hospital for bilateral knee surgery, so major surgery, so both kneecaps replaced. Came out of hospital 4 or 5 days later to attend a funeral, which obviously of a mother-in-law. So going again through the emotional, getting out of hospital, getting to the funeral, working through all that, and returning back to work this Monday, and then simple issues of just a laptop deciding not to work because I'm working from home, and just practical day-to-day functions. So my world in the last 4 weeks is uncharted. Obviously, people in your world pass away, and you think, yeah, even when a 90-year-old, it's a good innings, but even when it happens, it still knocks your socks off. So we celebrated her life, but also celebrated the entrance of a new little life, and then dealing with all the frustrations of, I have a plan of getting back to full health. Was one of my goals. You asked a question earlier to someone, I think to Alex, and some of the things that are my motivators of being healthy and adding value and having purpose, and the variety and sense of achievement. So that leaves me that I just can't sit on the rusty dusty, not do anything. So even with the physiotherapy guys, I'm sort of working, well, where am I at? Have I progressed at the level that is possible? And because of health and everyone's different, they're very, very skeptical, very hesitant to provide any sort of, well, you should be at this level. So trying to chart that uncharted world of mine is a very interesting challenge, and obviously, like with high end completion, so I'm wanting to get things done, and I want to get back to what the new normal is looking like, amongst all the other side issues coming in, which sort of, as I've mentioned before, just tend to distract and take one off out of balance, and having to come back into that, and is a constant and a daily sort of decision to sort of say, hey, no, I want full health. I want to be engaged in getting on with stuff. So it's an interesting journey just at the moment. So that's sort of my situation in a nutshell.
What would you want to be different now that you're, let's call it, we're a month down the track, and you can look back on it. What would you want it to be different, so that you were more in stride, or is there like anything you'd really want to have changed?
Oh, it's the ability. It might have been, I think it was Judith. Judy was commenting before about when people around you, rather than sort of being narky out with them, but being encouragement and the value you bring to them. You sort of touched where, let me put that in context, where even the frustration with our IT department this week, just getting a laptop out to me and getting things operational, it was super frustrating. But rather than being super frustrated with them, but actually saying, okay, look, appreciate what you're doing, working with them and getting the best out of them. Because if I get the best out of them, well, then I'll benefit as well. So it's dealing at that conscious level with things that come across on a daily basis, like even just basic stuff. Like I haven't mastered the art of climbing 15 stairs on crutches with a cup of coffee as yet. May not need to, but you get this different challenges that I haven't had to face 4 weeks ago. So is each one of those coming up, being able to then say, no, well, okay, I haven't had to do this before. How do I do it? How do I get on with it? How do I maintain? I'm going to work with this and work out how to do it, rather than just, no, that can't be done. That's not an option for me at this point in time. Too young to sort of stop and not do anything.
I just, I think I can feel a difference in you to the sort of principle we've talked about a couple of times today that Greg mentioned earlier, attention out. The minute you put your attention on helping others, it seemed to shift the
Yep.
frustration for you. But as you explain what's going on, Steve, what feels like's happening to me is you're just accumulating a lot of stories, that will probably serve you and others, knowing that you're there to make a difference. You're just accumulating a lot of material that you're probably going to use very valuably with others in due course, that where you can say, listen, like imagine we're 6 months down the track and you say, it's not all roses for me. I went through a time 6 months ago, you may not realize, but here's how I dealt with that. And here's what I learned.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of goodness that's coming from this, but you just haven't progressed along the journey enough yet to sort of be able to see where it's all going to land. But it is.
No, that's good commentary. I had thought through that and that comment. And yeah, I suppose at the moment it's just a little bit too raw with so many things coming up just on a daily basis. But yeah, you're spot on. It's the life experience that they'll be able to take forward to then encourage and strengthen others. Yes, spot on.
Yeah. You also sound in a really good place, just to give you some feedback on it, to your point about being in a mentally good place as opposed to the circumstances. So my thing to you would be relax about it, just enjoy it. It's happening. So just let it be. It's going to happen anyway, no matter how much you fight it or struggle with it or frustrate it, it's going to happen. So just enjoy it.
Sounds like my son. He said to me on Sunday, he said, Dad, you only been operated on 2 weeks ago. Chill out.
Hey, Steve, just one thing that I was just thinking, because you said, as a completer, you want to get things done and you want to get moving. And maybe obviously this has thrown your plan, whatever plan you had, out of the way. So if you maybe try to focus on a new plan and keeping less things on, being less strict on achieving that plan, or making a plan more achievable so you can still tick things off. That helps me when I'm in a position where, okay, I was going here and this was my routine and now I've got to come here. Then I've got to plan for that and make sure I'm happy, because this will go, but in the meantime you still got to want to fulfill your needs somehow of achieving your plan somehow. So it just might have to be a change in that plan.
Yeah, very spot on, Amanda. It's some of the changes have been putting things in context. Obviously, with arrival of a new life and one passing away, you then re-establish really what's important in life. So that's a very interesting commentary where I've sort of begun to look and say, well, how important is that? That can wait and readjust that whole thing. So very practical approach to it. Thank you.
I just love that principle that life is perfect. Like it actually is happening the way it's meant to be. So although the laptop didn't arrive when it should, and although this has happened over here or that's happened, it's all meant to be. I mean, if you could have made the plan, you could have made that plan, but life's shown you that it's in charge and it's all perfect. So the more you can sit back and sort of go, wow, it come from that place of curiosity rather than frustration. It's like, wow, I didn't factor that one in, but it's happening because it's meant to be. To me, it just takes all the stress away, and you get to the place of curiosity because you're then like, okay, well, it's happening for growth. It's always happening for growth or love. So, okay, how is this calling me to love more? How is this calling me to grow more? And then you're in a place now of curiosity rather than frustration, it totally changes the whole dynamic.
I think it's very important to hang on to that sort of concept, Paul, because I've got enough excuses, and I think we all have enough excuses and stories to say, well, I'm just going to give up on the whole thing, which is not the aim of the whole thing. So my circumstances, pretty intense at the moment, but we all go through them. So just to move outside of that and say, no, I'm going to get on with it. And so because the other option is not a very pleasant one. So
thanks, Steve, and thanks for sharing. And for all of you who have shared today, thank you. Maybe something just to leave you with that's been occurring to me as today's gone on, to try through the next week and maybe come back and share with the group next week is the scores you put up today are really high scores. I mean, and I can see it in this group. You're an awesome group of people, and what you bring to this discussion is really rich in the value you give each other, but also then in how you're inspiring each other to go out and then live a better life in the following week. It'd be really interesting to come back next week and share what you've seen about the shadow you're casting, and share that. So not just what's happening for you, but what have you noticed, or what feedback you've gotten from, you know, you being you and showing up as a 9 or 10 out of 10 in that really good place. What's happening? What's coming back to you of the difference that you're making? Because I think it's a really uncharted area of human understanding. You know, it's one thing to say, I've performed better and therefore I was able to make faster decisions or better decisions, or my productivity went up and my sales were X or my impact was Y. But understanding this concept of shadow, and, you know, like, which, let's just say it was 10x, you know, 10 times the effect of what happens just personally. I don't think people realize either the missed opportunity of casting a bigger shadow, or sometimes the negative shadow that they're casting. Like, a lot more of people are affected than what you maybe realize, you know, in terms of the negative side, but a lot more people are affected by what you're doing on the positive side as well. And just bringing that insight and awareness to this group, I think could be really profound. And I just invite those of you who think about this through the week, just to and I'll do it myself as well, watch for what often called the product of the product. You know, what's the value of you being the way you are? Where do the ripples go to? How far and wide, and what are you influencing? If you can maybe keep your eye on that and bring that back and share that, I think it would be really powerful for this group, with the learning and the awareness you have, to sort of have greater awareness and therefore more intention about how you expand that influence even further. So maybe, I don't normally give homework, but if we could just keep our eye on that and come back and share that next week. It's one thing to have a great score ourselves. It'd be great to now start getting some awareness of the impact of those scores on the world around us.
So are you suggesting we just observe, or would it be also appropriate to ask a question of people?
Yeah, both. I think if you can explore it a little bit, so you can bring something back. I just think it's a really uncharted area, and it would be great to get more awareness of it. Even for myself, I'm saying that myself, you know, so I think I'll be one that, knowing my ID, I'm, you know, into what I call level 4 questioning. I probably will talk to people about it and say, tell me more, you know, and bring that back. So yeah, if we can do that, I think that would be a powerful contribution. All right, guys, we're right on the hour. So thank you for coming along and sharing your time and energy and souls with us today. It's really, for me, always inspiring, and I love seeing the growth that a lot of you have experienced by just helping each other better understand yourselves and your ideas, and then operate more in stride. And when that's clearly happening, it's very fulfilling for me. So thanks for helping me start my day in a great place. I hope it's been like that for you, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.